Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. It's the start of a new month, which means a brand new arpeggiator video. So we're going to be looking at something in the 138 section, and it's going to be simplistic as usual, but this is going to have a lot of character to it, and it's going to be very simple how we operate this. So without further ado, let's jump into the video, and if you do enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on these videos in the future. So here we are, this is the track. We're going to play this little section from 97 into sort of the drop. Just made a little bit of a track to go with this so you can get some context from it, and then we'll take a look at making the melody over here. So we get the idea there. Let's jump over to here and take a look at what we're going to be doing. So this is the notation that we're using. It looks a little bit daunting at first, but really we just need to take note of this section here. These are just the rolling bass notes. This is the pattern that I've chosen. Let's just solo that. That's our pattern, so let's move over to here. You can see I've already dropped in. For those that don't have Cubase, you can actually use this technique, which is building the notes down the side in the scale. So you can see everything that is in green is in scale. If I put it into the wrong note, it's going to be orange. You can't see here, but if I just move that, it's going to light up orange, and you can see it's not in key. But for those that don't have Cubase or any sort of key features, which I'm sure most DAWs do now, you can look at this down the side. Alright, so in the first part we have a sort of seesaw effect, two notes kind of just going back and forth, and then there's like a high note in there. So we're going to take this first note here and we're going to move it to the 7th. So that is 7 notes up from here. So F is actually number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And you can see that's a D sharp. And then this note here is going to be our 5th. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which is a C. And we're just going to open up the filter here. I think it is this modulation channel here. Let's maybe not have it fully open because it's going to be a little bit intense. There we are. So you can hear from that already it's starting to take shape. So I'm going to do the same with these two. And I'm going to bring it up to the 7th and the 5th. So these are the common sort of starting points I always use, like 7ths and 5ths. Sometimes the 3rd and the 2nd, depending on how intricate I want it to be, but it's really just down to your creativity, so experiment. All right, so we've got the first section. That is much easier. We can just delete the rest of this now, and we can duplicate these. So I'm just hitting Command D for Cubase here, and we'll just do 4 bars. It's got that Cafe Del Mar style feel to it at the moment. And you can see we've got the seesaw in action now. So we've got the E sharp and we've got the D sharp in action. And then we've got the little flick on the top note from that C. Or should we say, sorry, the B sharp. So listen to that again. Okay, so from that point there, this second section actually duplicates a note that's already playing, which is an F. So we're just kind of doubling up, and that is our second portion of the melody. And everything stays the same. The bass is going to change at this point, but we're not going to be building that at the moment. So I'm going to copy this over to the 3rd and 4th section of this, so it's really 8 bars long in total. And then from this point we can just grab these notes on this 3rd section. I'm going to throw them to here and then returning back to F. So the melody is pretty simple with the flicks anyway. So it's not sounding too great in the second section regarding the seesaw bit. So we can move this up to here and here. So what we're doing here is utilizing, so the F is the root note here in this sequence. So that is the second and the third that are seesawing back and forth, whilst mimicking the third here on the top for the flick, and then back down to the root note there. With that done, we can start with the bass. So I'm going to take the third and fourth bar, and I'm going to transpose these up 6. So that will be our 6th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I don't want it to be up at that octave. I want it to go down so it's 1 octave below. And then for this 5th and 6th bar, we have our D sharp. And then from there, we have the A sharp in there, but really I want that an octave lower as well. So now we have the complete sequence. And returning them back to velocity mode, you can see some of these notes are louder and quieter. Blue, sort of lighter pink, is becoming quieter, and red is louder. And from that we can control the groove of the sound and how it flows, and also these louder notes up here could also be controlled down a little bit quieter because they do pop out the mix a little bit. So let's just do that now. Let's grab those and let's play it. If we return them back to 100% velocity, which is roughly here, they kind of pop out a lot. And if we were to return everything back to the same levels, you're going to hear sort of a big mush of sound, and it's going to sound a bit muddy. So doing this is going to give it character and just give it a little bit of flow. And you can see I've returned them back down to the level they were, and it just keeps them from really poking through the mix too much. And finally, what we need to do is just preempt these sections here. They seem to come in a little bit late just with the way the note placement is. So I'm just going to grab the last note of each section and transpose them to the section that is coming ahead. And it doesn't matter for that last section. That sounds more natural if you return it there, because it's just that little bit late in the bar. It seems to miss this change here, so putting it there is going to preempt it. So just treat it as all these notes here are meant to be on the beat, but I've just dragged them back 1/16 for this particular arpeggio, so really they'd be on the beat and they will be following through on the next bar. They are close enough. So there we have it, we've created the arpeggio. Now, that's the easy part. The harder part is obviously fitting it into the mix. Does it need more layers, etc, etc? You can see we've got 2 layers here, but we're not going to look at that. We're just going to have a quick look through the processing that I've done here. So let's take a look at the first thing we've done, which is a bit of EQ, and we're rolling off the lows and rolling off the highs. We're just controlling some of that area. So you can see I've put it on a 6 dB per octave slope, really gentle. So it's kind of controlling these levels down, not getting rid of them, just controlling them at this point. And the reason for the high roll off as well, by the way, is because when the filter opens, it gets pretty loud and pretty white noisy. So controlling it that way is going to be a lot better for you. And then I use a band EQ here just to bring back some of the shine, but without the hiss in there. We can control it a lot better there. So that's using the SPL EQ Ranger Plus. There's a plethora of other sort of band EQs. I know a lot of DAWs come with them, so you can use that instead. Next up is the omni-channel. So saturation is added, some odd harmonics to give it a little bit of a fill. But after watching a recent video, this is not the best option for saturation. It adds a few extra little tidbits in that you don't want in your mix, and it just sort of doesn't work as it should. So I'm going to be using a different saturation in place at some point, but adding extra harmonics in there is just giving it a little bit of weight and thickness. And then we're just using some compression here, and I'm using the Opto compressor to be very transparent on the mix, but also just to help bring out gently the lower portions, the delay and the reverb. So if I turn this off, you're going to hear everything sort of drop away and then come back when I turn it back on. So forgetting the volume difference, if you actually leveled them out and gain staged them, you would hear that there's a lot of detail being brought from the lower portions using this optocompressor. Then finally, we have two more things. We have LFO Tool, which is just providing a little bit of sidechain imitation using volume shaping. And then we just have a filter, just generally doing some high passing and some low passing throughout the mix. So that's the inserts that I've used on that track. Now, it does go through to a leads mix. We've got a little bit of reverb on there. So I'm using the EDM Super Saw, tweaked it up just a smidge, just to get the sound that I wanted. Then it goes through some compression, so I use a first stage compression, so not pushing the compressor too hard, just knocking off a dB, maybe a little bit more, just to keep it sort of transparent. And then it goes through a secondary compressor, which is essentially like a G-bus from Waves, and it's there just to control the final part. What I'm trying to do is not overwork the first compressor, but bring a second compressor in to sort of do the other dB. So I'm really reducing it by 2. So give that technique a try. And then we've got the SPL. I'm just adding a bit of air back in where it's been lost through the reverb and the compression. And then finally, an EQ at the end, just to remove some of the lows, because a lot of that processing in that channel has added some lows back in, as you can see from here. And with that all added in, we have a full section ready for putting into a track. So there we have it, folks. That is the end of the tutorial. If you did enjoy the video, let me know down in the comments. If you have any questions as well about what you've seen, also let me know down there. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing if you did learn something or you're going to use this melody in your own production, then it would be great to see you as a subscriber. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.